Hello, hello, and welcome to Walk the Walk. I am so excited to be here today with Bret Starr. He has a new book that just dropped on Amazon today, and John and I are going to talk to him about that book. Bret's been running the Starr Conspiracy since, I can't even believe this,
1999.
1999.
I can't believe it
That's
either.
insane.
I
I always
know.
tell people that we started in 2005, and that sounds like a very long time. So, wow. Are you tired?
I'm so tired. And especially it's tiring to run an agency. Y'all know that. But these last few years, I mean, have just been, 5 times, the tiredness inducing, whether it was, the pandemic is probably going to wreck our agency. And then you end up growing. And it's like,
Yeah.
how did that happen? And it's like, wow, we're going to grow forever. And then the economy gets weird, and it's just like, what? Nothing works the way it's supposed to anymore. So yes, I'm tired.
Yes.
Do
In
you,
short.
do you do you attribute any of that to like just how quickly things changed? I mean, customers changed, the macroeconomics changed, what people were scared of seemed to change like every couple of months. I mean, how does that fit in?
Yeah, specifically like where did the economic disruption come from?
Or just the tiredness, you're constantly trying to adapt to the next thing.
So I've got a whole theory about this,
I want to hear
and
it.
it's based on organizing principles. And I think we're in the middle of a new organizing principle. And so what I use as an example typically is the invention of the World Wide Web. And, when something happens that's so large that it reorders fields in all levels, the social field, the business field, et cetera, does it change the way that you watch movies, how you eat, how you shop, how you do business? We used to have software on big COBOL mainframes that was stored in a closet somewhere or a big, room. You take marketing automation systems, for instance. Back in the day, I remember the world before software as a service. If you had a marketing automation system, it's probably because you were using something like Siebel Systems or something like that. It probably cost $2 million. It was probably on multiple servers, in the basement somewhere, and you were probably $100 million company. And then software as a service comes along, and suddenly it's cheap, it's fast, it's easy, and everybody has it. And that means that everyone basically started using the same sales and marketing process. Prior to the SaaS kind of revolution, people actually had different marketing strategies and different sales strategies than their competitors. And now it's all about performance optimization, just being marginally better at doing the same thing. And so that was a huge transformation. And if you remember, those times, it created a lot of friction. There were people who fought against the new organizing principle. There were people that stay off the internet, stay out of the cloud. They'll steal your car keys, your data's not safe, etc. And everything got jammed up. And so people didn't want to buy anything. They didn't want to make any major decisions because they wanted to see how it was all going to play out. Well, I think that same thing is happening now. The pandemic was very similar to the invention of the World Wide Web. I know how that sounds, but talking about in terms of the order of magnitude of change in the social field, the business field, we shop differently, we eat differently, we do business differently. And when these new organizing principles, it's usually like a 20-year arc. When they come to into being, it just creates a lot of uncertainty and a lot of I just burn a lot of calories personally thinking, what am I supposed to do next? Because the future is uncertain in a way that tends to track with really big changes. So that's my theory.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And it jives too with, how venture capital money changed in the past couple of years, which put pressure, like all those, SaaS companies and, these things that are now in the cloud and the technology is more accessible. The pressure for those VCs to, or I guess the companies they fund to just, hey, look, we don't know what's going to happen, so you need to just extend your runway. And they're like, what? We've been this growth at all costs model for a long time, and now you're telling us to act like a real business. Like that was a big shift in of itself. So,
and it's the same thing that happened back then. It's the same thing that, happened when the internet bubble burst.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this big change that's happening that causes people to reevaluate business models. Every now and then, people get conservative in Silicon Valley. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe we should like care about stuff like profit and, stuff like that. And usually what happens is the market is so uncertain that they've got people to answer to, and they need to demonstrate that they're, being responsible with, their portfolio investments and all that stuff. And so it just kind of all gets passed downhill and everyone gets frozen. And that's where we've been, for the last 18 months or so, is that buyers who, buy enterprise software, for instance, are frozen because they don't know if the thing that they're about to buy maps to this new worldview of the way we work now or whatever. So the vendors who sell to them get frozen because they don't know why their sales cycles are stretching out, why their conversion rates are all wonky, et cetera, et cetera. And then, the organizations that fund them, and it just becomes this thing until it sorts itself out. And I think we're at the front edge of it sorting out, but it's been choppy.
It's been very choppy. So how long have you been working on this book?
I tell people this, and I don't think they believe me. I don't like business books, and I didn't want to write one, and I accidentally wrote this one, and I wrote it in 2 days. I wrote the first draft in 2 days. So I was like, I came up to the office on a Saturday morning in May, and I just wanted to write this article about basically technological determinism, how technological innovations have unintended consequences. And I could see that playing out in the way that, marketing was evolving, or, its lack of evolving in tech companies. And I wanted to say, look, everyone is, trying to create marketing strategies to please their marketing automation systems instead of the people and creating a customer experience. And so I wanted to talk about the unintended consequences of everyone having, free, cheap, easy CRM. And how we ended up here where, we're all doing the same things and just trying to be marginally better at them. And I sat down to write that article, and I did not stop. I was sitting right here. I did not stop writing for 2 days. I didn't sleep. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't leave the office. And when I was done, I had a first draft of a book. I've worked on it a lot since then. But really that, the very hard work that a lot of people do to kind of think about the book they want to write and, how to position and, all that stuff. I didn't do any of that. And so I've been, pretty fortunate in that regard. I've already started working on my second book. And that one is a lot harder.
That one might take 4 days.
Yeah. That one's probably gonna take like 4 years and never get done.
Was there anything else that sort of surprised you in that process that popped out that maybe you hadn't even, thought all the way through, and you're just like, whoa, like that's going in the book, or some thing that just you took away from that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. In many ways, the process of writing a book and selling it tracked to all of the big problems that are in the book. And so what you quickly, kind of find out is that writing books is a racket. And, that there's all these best practices out there, that the more that you pursue these best practices and conventional wisdom and all that, the more it takes you off track of what a book should actually do, which is, either please the reader or inform them or, just create a good experience. But all these best practices are, it's very similar to what happened with, like websites. I was around when websites were created. And when websites were first created, you wrote content on the website for people. And then these search engine things, got invented. And then people started, writing words in the same color as the background of the website so that they could, stack a bunch of keywords. And then when Google figured that out, people were like, oh, well, we just need to write content that is optimized against the algorithm, et cetera, et cetera. And before you know it, we were writing for robots. We're not writing for people anymore. And then, we enter this AI period where people are creating SEO content with AI. So now it's robots writing for robots. I mean, it's like, this is the world that we have, arrived in. And writing a book can be a lot like that, where, basically if you follow every bit of, best practice, you end up with something that has an SEO, optimized title and, you're buying reviews and, listing in categories that don't actually match what your book does, and, all this stuff just to be able to say you're a bestseller or whatever. And I was having, the experience that I was writing about, where, basically if you follow best practice, you end up getting further away from the customer that you're trying to build relationships with. And so I just found that to be incredibly interesting. I had no idea what this world was like of, writing business books. And it's a very interesting world.
There's everything has a system, right? And then the whole shtick then is gaming whatever system that is and figuring out how. I actually posted in, as I was looking at your book on Amazon today, which is called The Humble Guide to Fixing Everything in Brand Marketing and Sales, which we'll talk about because I love that title. I found a book I was reviewing that was ready for the genre. This exists. Cozy Animal Mysteries. That is the genre of fiction in which one of the titles that I was selecting.
I'm just
was
more
listed.
impressed. I'm just more impressed that it was targeting you with that category.
It's actually a really popular book. It's a New York Times bestseller. And I thought, is it a bestseller because it's the only seller in cozy animal mysteries, or is it a bestseller because it's a great book? So, but it's been recommended to me by a number of folks. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's when I started to realize, okay, that categorization is such an important part of how you rank the book and all of those things. But you've done a great job marketing the book so far. So what have you done differently that you think sort of stepped outside the realm of the best practices that you've seen?
Well, I try to break the script in everything that I do. And, I write a lot about this in the book. What does it mean to break the script and, create a defining moment? I think a lot of people, when I say break the script, think that I'm talking about the way things are normally done. And that's part of it. But really what I'm talking about is a real script where I have a role and you have a role. And, as long as we're both following the script, then neither one of us are paying attention. And so, for instance, the script for marketing is, me as a marketer, I'm going to try to trick you into clicking on something
100%,
or whatever. And, the customer out there, their role in the script is to constantly harden their defenses and get rid of 95% of the email in their inbox, first thing in the morning. And so they become a heat-seeking missile for spam, and they're looking for like repeating patterns of subject lines that are like quick question or, whatever, just so they can, delete it quickly. And so if everyone's following the script, nothing's getting through. And so, as an example, one of the things that I did to promote the book was this notion of can't click Tuesday. And so it's silly. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I created a weekly email campaign that goes out to about 30,000 people in our house list. And I can't put any links in it. There's nothing to click on. So my marketing automation system doesn't know if it's successful or not. And, you're sitting there like writing emails, trying to convince me. I'm like, oh, I can't link here. I can't link to Amazon. So today the book launched. I can't send an email because it's can't click Tuesday that with a link to the Amazon page. And I did this intentionally 6 weeks ago because when you start breaking those conventions, you find out how addicted you are to them. So I'm sitting there writing an email. I'm like, oh, I'll link here. I can't. You mean I have to convince people with the power of my words and art to do stuff? How crazy is that? And, so every moment where, usually, honestly, I've got a very simple tactic when I'm about to do something that I've not done before to promote the book, like post on LinkedIn or send an email or, list on Amazon. The first thing I do is go out and read best practice, best practice for listing on Amazon. And then I get a list of all these things and I do exactly the opposite. So the first email and Can't Click Tuesday that I sent out, for instance, was about 10 pages long. And it had the entire first chapter copied and pasted into the email. Because a best practice email should be short, Yeah. And so I just did the opposite.
So you've said a phrase a few times, and you're using the same language now around like optimize. And so that feels like a very cold business is a machine. We're going to just, you got people at the top that are saying, no, be more efficient, do this, do that. It's just because they're looking at the bottom line. And I think there's an underlying statement that you're making there where it's like, well, yeah, no, we're doing this for real human beings. Let's not lose sight of the valuable aspects of their day. And I think there are some things, obviously you work with work tech companies a lot. There are some things that, okay, this is really frustrating or time consuming. It's not a good use of my time. Yeah, let's use a computer for that if possible. But there are really high value parts of my day where I want to like use my brain for the hard things. And so that's slowing things down and not automating or optimizing. How does that relate to your sort of way of viewing this, the topics of the book, how you run your business?
Yeah. I mean, it's all related because, it's really about chaos theory. And I don't write a lot about chaos theory in the book. But it explains everything in what's happening with marketing. Because what we have convinced ourselves of is that marketing is a linear system, that it's a linear process, and it is not a linear process. So in a linear system, for instance, what you put in is correlated to what you get out. So if you think of like a farm as a system, for instance, and, there's a horse on the farm and there's seeds and, that's all part of the system, right? And if I have one horse and that horse can carry 200 pounds, if I get two horses, well, that's 400 pounds. So if I need to, carry 800 pounds, then I better get four horses, right? It's like, it's a very linear system where what I put in correlates directly to what I get out. When all these software as a service, marketing automation systems got created in Salesforce.com and all that stuff, it created the false perception that the customer experience is a linear system where, it's sequential. I go from my brand experience to, becoming an MQL. Like who is out there saying, wow, I hope I just became an SQL. Is it time for me yet? And it's like, that's not how the world works. The world is not random. It's chaotic. And a small change in the way that something starts can have a huge impact on the way it finishes. And it can oscillate and bounce, and, you can be in the brand experience one moment and the product experience next, et cetera. And we're trying to push everybody through a flow chart. And so what happens in that environment is that we end up aiming for the metrics as opposed to aiming for the outcome. And we value predictability over transformational outcomes. And so if we can create a system where we know, hey, if I take my $10,000 a month, AdWords budget and I turn it to a $20,000 a month budget, then I'll get twice as many results. Well, that's true because it sucks, because you're talking about a 1% conversion rate. Like that's a great thing in life. And a 1% conversion rate is this thing on the edges of a bell curve. It's like the worst possible outcome that you could possibly imagine. And so we end up with all these processes and systems that we have to feed. And so a lot of our work becomes, well, I've got to get a campaign out every week. So I need to write a thought leadership article. The thought leadership article, no one's going to read it anyway. So, it's got to have a good title and, I need to write the email copy.
Will read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe in that context, hey, it sure seems like a good idea for me to get AI to do that because it's not like anyone's reading it anyway, And so you spend all your time doing this stuff to hit your 1%, metric here or your 5% conversion there. And you don't have the time to step outside of all that and do the valuable part of thinking about how I can create a defining moment for people using, what I have at my disposal. And I think that a lot of people end up saying, okay, well, the solution for that then is I'll just feed that beast with AI and I'll go over and think over here. And the reality is there's a role for AI, all that stuff's great, but all that stuff that you're doing doesn't need to be done. And rather, using that, the power of, creativity and thought to deconstruct expectations around what needs to be done, I think is much more valuable.
Can I ask a follow on? So I love that. And so, and I think I think we could probably talk for another couple hours on this because our company is so focused on, we call it an intentional friction where, hey, this is not a chance to automate. This is a chance for human interaction. And we're building tools on the work side, like once something's already been sold or once you're already an employee or whatever, to make people, we're trying to make tools that they actually want to use and love.
Mm-hmm.
You're more on the sales and marketing side, like getting people engaged. Like every experience with the brand is part of a customer experience. You have to have, like, you're setting an expectation and setting a bar for, hey, like, actually, I bought your service. Now I expect a certain level of experience being a customer. How do you advise or control or help companies, get that part right? Because this is all like a long-term mindset, right? If you take care of the people instead of a metric, then they're going to stick around. Everybody loves predictable revenue, right? If you take care of, if you're thinking about running your business like a business, like we talked about earlier, and you actually care about profit, then, predictability of a renewal is a really great thing. So where does that line start blurring for you, or how far do you carry that with your company?
Yeah. So first of all, you're at the heart of the matter, John. I appreciate the question. It's a great question. We cover what, I consider to be the 5 domains of customer experience: brand experience, marketing experience, sales experience, product experience, and customer success. We see that as a holistic system that people bounce. I mean, a story that I tell all the time is, somewhere today, someone is starting a job where they are using your software as part of their job, and that's the first exposure they have to you. So they got on the merry-go-round in the product experience. If they get promoted and then, change jobs, their job at the next place might be evaluating and buying systems like the one that they used in the job they have now.
That's a
and
great
so now
analogy.
They're going to have a brand experience and a marketing experience and a sales experience. And if those things don't line up with what their actual product experience was, it will result in a break in continuity that's just enough to generate fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that is the most important thing. All of the problems that I see in brand and marketing and sales typically come down to breaks in continuity driven by surrogation, meaning that at one point we had a goal in marketing that was about people or what we wanted to achieve, or it was a business goal or, strategic or whatever. And we had a goal in sales about, the type of experience we wanted to create or whatever. And then we said, well, how do we know if we're being successful? Well, let's come up with these metrics. Okay. And so now if a campaign's good, then it's going to have a certain number of leads. If a sales process is good, it's going to have a certain close percentage or whatever. And then we forget about the strategy and we start navigating towards the metrics. And then it becomes marketing's job, for instance, to deliver 500 leads a week. And, it's becoming harder to do that and more expensive because there's more competition. And so now my job is not, how do I create a great marketing experience? It's how do I continue to deliver 500 leads a week? And then you get into situations where what you need to do in order to achieve that metric-driven objective actually runs counter to the product experience that you want to create over in the product domain. And so it creates a break in continuity as people move from, the marketing domain to the sales domain. What usually happens is sales gets caught in the middle. Like marketing is over here saying, well, the employee experience keyword campaign set is doing really, really well. Let's spend more money there and less money on the learning outcomes ad set. It doesn't matter that the product is a learning product and only has a marginal, kind of relationship with employee experience. What matters is I can get more leads there. And so I'm going to start orienting towards paid campaigns that focus on employee experience. By the time those employee experience cohort marketing people come through and get to the sales experience, sales is sitting there like, why do these people want to talk about employee experience? And I'm about to demo a learning, product. And so they, end up trying to connect the dots. And because their job is to close a certain number of deals. And when it gets over to the product experience, it takes, not very much time for people to say, whoa, this is really different than what I expected. And that's the break in continuity that results in churn and, a decreased satisfaction. And on the face of it, it looks like marketing is killing it. Their cost per lead is going down, their volume's going up, everything looks great. They've cracked the code, but they're actually driving, customers who have an interest or intent that is radically different than the product intent. So how do you govern all that? You have to have an experience vision. You start by saying, what is the essential nature and defining characteristics of the experience that we want to create for people everywhere in brand, marketing,
I love
sales,
that.
product, and customer success. And then that becomes a third dimension of strategy. So every domain like marketing or sales has a business goal. It has a strategic goal. So the business goal might be to grow or to profit or get acquired or whatever. The strategic goal is pretty unique to the domain. So in brand, it's going to be brand attributes, brand recognition, functional association. In marketing, it might be to connect, to drive engagement, whatever. In sales, it might be to convert into deals. So that's the domain goal. Now there needs to be an experience goal. And the experience goal, like our experience vision at the Star Conspiracy, is to create abundance. We create abundant experiences. And the defining characteristics for that are, are we sharing freely? Are we bringing big ideas to the table? Are we focusing on opportunities instead of problems? And are we expressing gratitude? And everything that we do in sales and in marketing and in brand has to pass that abundance test. And if it doesn't, it means that we're not delivering the type of experience that we want. And if we continue to actually create the experience instead of promising it once you become a client, then we don't have those resulting breaks in continuity that cause people to say, this is not the company that I thought it was, because what I was told in marketing or what I experienced in sales is really different than, the service that I'm getting. So the experience vision is the key.
I love that.
Who's the keeper of that vision? That feels really disconnected, especially in the age of the multiple agencies at the table. There's a lot of times we're brought to the table just to fulfill one's particular marketing engagement. We're only your paid media team, but boy, it would be nice if we could talk to your SEO team and the content creators because they're not aligning them to that same experience.
Well, and the 5 different domains that Bret just listed, they're all, the incentives for each of those is different too.
Yep.
The way the people are incentivized or the leadership.
So is that the CMO?
Yeah, I have a short run, answer and a long run answer.
Yeah.
Eventually, in organizations, it will be a CX officer, and that will be. And I did this thing the other day where, have you ever downloaded all of your LinkedIn data? It's a lot of fun if you haven't. You own that data, so you can go into LinkedIn and you can download, everything, all your contacts, all of your, reactions, your articles, like everything in like these separate things. And so I downloaded all my contacts and I wanted to see what kind of people, like in a spreadsheet view that I've got, that I'm connected to in LinkedIn. And I started sorting them into affinity groups. And one of the affinity groups that I wanted to create was an experience group. So people who had experience titles, whether it was user experience design or whatever. And I noticed that there was about 100 people in there that had chief experience officer as a title. Yeah. And so that's a thing that is happening. Now, most of the time, unfortunately, those chief experience officers really preside over product and customer success. And it doesn't really consider, marketing, brand, and sales. So in the future, people's holistic perspective of what is customer experience will expand, and there will be someone with a CMO skill set that becomes an experience officer over all of those domains. And it's a matrix situation. It's not like they run sales and they run product and they run this other thing. It's that they're responsible for the experience part of those domains and those functions. That's in the long run. In the short run, the company needs to own it, but it's going to be an agency that creates it. And it's going to be a branding agency of some kind. One of the stories I tell in the book is that when we go looking for people's experience vision, which becomes, this dimension that we have to have, just like, hey, we're not going to do this work or that work over there if we don't understand your visual standards, if we don't understand your message standards. If that doesn't exist, then we can't do all the stuff that you're asking us to. So let's, get together and work on that. Well, you have to have an experience standard as well. And we need to know what that is. So we'll end up creating that. But usually when you go looking for it, it's hiding in plain sight all over the place because it's in your values. It's in your vision. It's in your purpose. It's in your mission. All of these existential concepts that have been contextualized around an outcome, right? So why do we have values? Because we want to telegraph what our expectations are around what the vibe is we're trying to create, or like what is acceptable or not acceptable behavior. So it's contextualized to employee success. But there's something that's abstract and existential in values that speaks to what you are truly like as an organization, that which reveals itself in defining moments. And if you look at all of these concepts and you see what's similar about them, then you start to, get a glimpse of what the essential nature is of an organization. And so I think that's an amazing gift that agencies can give to their clients, is give them something that becomes theirs, not just a means to an end to get this project done or that project, but becomes theirs and becomes a way to evaluate whether the work that they're doing internally and the work that other organizations are doing on their behalf meet their criteria for the type of experience they want to create, especially in defining moments across all those domains.
That's got to just make those core values and mission and purpose so much more real to all the employees too. I mean, that's got to be a cultural defining moment for the whole company just as much as it is something for a customer experience.
That's right. Well, I didn't write about it in this book, but my largest body of work is basically around the intersection of customer experience, employee experience, and shareholder experience, and how all of those experiences have to flow from the same experience vision. Because what you see is that if you're promising something to customers that you are not delivering to your own employees, it exacerbates the perception of a terrible customer experience. So if you're a well-being company and you're promising everyone, a great lifestyle and work-life balance and everything, and your own employee experience is a dumpster fire, the perceptions of it are made worse by what you're promising in the market. If you're promising something in the market that you're not actually delivering to your own people, regardless of what that is, like if you have a software that's all about efficiency, and you have an incredibly inefficient, work environment, then people are going to say, why aren't we using our own products? Why aren't we living what we're promising to customers? And it creates all kinds of issues that eventually have a huge negative impact on your shareholder experience. And all of these have domains that are, tracked very similarly to the domains of customer experience and have to be considered holistically. And so, yes, usually when you go through that work, you find that the experience that you want to create for your customers is rooted in just how you would like to treat other people and how you'd like to be treated. And that extends to customers and shareholders and everything. But the world is not ready for that yet. And that's why this book is really focused on brand and marketing and sales. I don't put customer experience in the title anywhere. And I certainly don't talk, I'll talk a little bit about employee experience and shareholder experience, but I try not to, because the world's not ready for it. If I put out a book about customer experience with the hope that someone would say, oh, customer experience is the solution for my brand and marketing and sales problems, no one would read it, because no one believes that customer experience has anything to do with brand marketing and sales. Yep. And so, I think that these other concepts, like the relationship between employee experience and shareholder experience and customer experience, I mean, just look at the, backlash around like, stakeholder capitalism and stuff like that. And you'll see that we're not really ready to operationalize those concepts of working in a mutually beneficial business ecosystem quite yet. So I'm just focused on brand marketing and sales for now. We'll see what's next.
Well, it's funny because it is a topic John and I talk about a lot, because I'm on the brand and marketing side and he's on the product development side. And so our intersection really is that sort of CX is the core of what we're all trying to do, is create something that's consistent and relatable and important, for the organizations that we work with. So tell us where people can find your book.
Well, thank you. It's on Amazon, and the hardcover just became available as we were speaking.
Oh, and that's cool.
Right now it's paperback and hardcover. It's called A Humble Guide to Fixing Everything in Brand Marketing and Sales. You just go to Amazon, look for my name, Bret Starr, or look for A Humble Guide, and it'll pop up. We just released today, and we were trending as the number 16 new release across all of Amazon's books. So not just the little categories that we were in, but we were doing really, really well. Right now, it looks like awesome. We're number 5,414 of all books on Amazon. There's 30 million books.
Yeah, so, incredible.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. So yeah, just by now, if you search for a humble guide, you'll find it.
How can we help you game the system? So buy, but then also write a review, right?
Well, yes. So yes, but here's the deal. I don't do any of that stuff. And so I don't even I've got, 50 people in the agency. And what would be an obvious thing for me to do? Send everyone a gift card, get them to buy a book, get them to leave a review. It's like I can literally make people do that, right? Whether it's a good idea or not, I can make that happen. You'll see I only have 12 reviews because I don't want to force people to do reviews. I don't want people to write a review who haven't read the book. And so the whole world tells me that unless I have 187 reviews on the day it launches, which is impossible. It's impossible, for 108, whatever best practice number that gets the, Amazon algorithm's attention. It's impossible to achieve that. But that's what you want when people first land and they say, oh, look at all these reviews. It must be, a really well-reviewed book. Well, those are just, people who haven't read the book. So no, buy the book, read it. That's what I really care about. Let's talk about it. If you want to come back after you've read it and leave a review, I would love that. But read it.
I'm so curious about how hard it is to be both. I want to win at this game, but I don't want to play this game because that's what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, you just exactly come across as such an authentic person that's obviously thought about this stuff to the point of just being able to articulate these big, heady concepts with relative simple language. So, I mean, what an amazing time having you on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. It's been a really fun conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. It was awesome to meet you finally and hear about the book, which I'm halfway through, by the way. So I did.
Good. Thank you.
It's good.
Wait till you get to the brand chapter. That's the one that really grinds people to a halt. It's too long and I need to rewrite it.
Well, that would have taken maybe another hour or two. So I think you did pretty good. So yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all take care.